Hello, everyone. So I've got a lot of requests by a lot of my friends and others to explain the game of chess. So what the game of chess actually means, how do you play it, how the pieces move, what is the objective, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in a playlist that I'm going to create right now. And this is the first video of the playlist where I'm going to go ahead and explain to you the basics, the very, very fundamentals of this game. So what you're looking at right now is a chessboard, and it's got two kings on it, but ignore them for a while. What you're looking at right now is a chessboard, and it has, obviously, as you can see, white and black pieces, white and black squares, and there are in total 64 squares on a chessboard, and this is because of the fact that the chessboard, in and of itself, is a square that has a dimensions 8 by 8. Correct? So you've got 8 squares on this vertical line, and you've got 8 squares on this horizontal line. You multiply the two together, you get 64 squares. Right. Now, one of the first things you need to be able to learn to do is identify each square. Right? Now, the way you do it is by imagining the chessboard to be kind of like a graph. And if you look at the vertical axis of this graph, you will see numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you look at the horizontal axis, you will see letters. The way to identify a square is by naming it based on its corresponding letter and number. So for example, this square that my mouse pointer is on right now can be called D4, right? Same idea, A1, B2, C3, D4. And this one would be B6. And this is really important to know because every once in a while you'll hear players that are good talk about their games and say something to the effect of, I moved my bishop to C4, I moved my knight to F3, I moved my pawn to G6, that kind of deal. Now, when they are saying that, you have to know what they're saying. If you don't, you'll be very confused. So when they say something to the effect of, I moved my bishop to C4, what they're saying is, there was a bishop somewhere that moved to this square. This is the square C4, right? Cool. So that's how you identify squares. You'll also notice on a chessboard that you can see patterns. So if you look at this vertical line, you'll see there are 8 of them. Look at this horizontal line, there are 8 of them because it's an 8 by 8 square. So every vertical line on a chessboard is called a file. And each file is named based on its corresponding letter. So because this is a file that is on the letter A, this file is called the A file. This is called the C file. And on the A file, for example, you will have 8 squares going from A1 to A8 with A2, A4, A5, A6, all of that in the middle. In the same way, on the C file, you'll have all of the squares on the C line, right? And these are called files. Similarly, you will have horizontal lines, and each horizontal line can be called a rank, correct? So this one would be called the first rank, this one would be called the second rank, third rank, fourth rank, fifth rank, that kind of deal. And each rank has all of the letters on it. So for example, A2 will be here, B2 will be here, C2 will be here, everything up until H2 will be here. All of the 2s will be on this rank. Similarly, all of the 7s will be on the 7th rank. Often you'll hear chess players say something to the effect of, I got my pawn to the 7th rank. Now, typically what this means is if the player is playing with the black pieces, they're typically talking about this rank because they're talking about it from their perspective. This is the 7th rank from their perspective. But it's one of those things that, you'll figure out as you start playing the game. It's not too much of an issue. But it's important to understand the concept of a file and a rank. Now, you'll also notice that there are other patterns you can draw, like this one, these 2 squares, or these 4 squares, or these 6 squares, or these 8 squares, right? Now, if you look at them, they are diagonals, correct? And the diagonals are notated by the first and last square on each diagonal. So this diagonal would be called the A1 to H8 diagonal. Similarly, this diagonal will be called the H1 to A8 diagonal. And given the fact that the A1 to H8 diagonal and the H1 to A8 diagonal are the longest diagonals on the chessboard, every other diagonal is shorter than these diagonals. Given the fact that these 2 diagonals are the longest ones, they're called the long diagonals. And that's pretty much the basics of the board. Now, let's go into the setup of chess pieces. Now, you'll notice that 2 players both have the same number of chess pieces. Each player has 16 pieces on the board. And there are, therefore, 32 pieces covering 32 squares on this board. So that leaves 32 squares empty on a chessboard, which is not something that you have to remember. It's just, it gives you a sense of what you're playing with, like how much space you have to move around. So there are 32 empty squares on a chessboard, and how the chessboard is set up is that each player gets 8 pawns, and the pawns are on the 2nd rank and the 7th rank respectively. And they also get pieces. So each player has 2 rooks. 2 rooks. They've got 2 knights, 2 bishops, 1 queen, and 1 king. Same as black. 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops, 1 queen, and 1 king. And you'll notice that the rooks, knights, bishops are placed symmetrically around the queen and king. And it's the same for black, right? So this is pretty much identical the way it's done. A lot of questions are usually in the beginning of the game about where to place the queen. A lot of beginners don't exactly know where to place the queen and the king. And one easy way to remember it is to memorize that the white queen will always be on the white square, and the dark queen will always be on the dark square. There is no exception to this rule. This is always when it starts, the white queen on the white square, the dark queen on the dark square. Now the objective of this game is to deliver checkmate. I might have already said this, I might have not. The objective of this game is to deliver checkmate to the opponent's king. And if you've heard of this term before, that's good, but you may not know what it means, so we'll get to that eventually. So essentially we've learned about the board, the pieces, we've learned about files, ranks, diagonals, and in the next video we'll go into how pieces move individually, and then we'll go into further concepts like what a checkmate actually is, and the value of pieces, for example. And then after, we might go into some theory about what to do in an opening, or like how to develop basic strategies for chess. So that's pretty much the end of the first video. I'll catch you on the next ones. Hope you enjoyed.